Welcome to This Explainer. If you're an educator, you know this exact agonizing feeling. You deliver what you thought was a masterful lesson only to be met by a brick wall of blank stares. Today, we're unpacking the hidden cognitive mechanics behind an absolutely crucial classroom shift, moving from just broadcasting information to actually facilitating true student-led understanding. Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The peer explanation phenomenon. 2. The science of shared learning. 3. Why peer explanation works. 4. Strategies for your classroom. And 5. Overcoming common hurdles. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The peer explanation phenomenon. When the light bulb finally goes on. Picture this. You're up at the front of the room. You've explained a concept maybe 3 different ways, using your absolute best analogies, and you're getting nothing but crickets. But then, out of the corner of your eye, a student whispers to their desk mate. The desk mate nods, and boom, the light bulb goes on. It's beautiful, right? But also kind of maddening. So why do students sometimes learn better from each other than from you? Well, researchers call this the protege effect. And once we figure out the why behind it, we can actually harness it. So what exactly is peer explanation? It's simply students explaining concepts to their classmates, using their own language, through discussion, questioning, and clarification. Think of it like cognitive translation. Whether you're tackling complex math equations, the scientific method, or the nuances of language arts, this process basically strips away the academic jargon. It translates your expert broadcast directly into their everyday dialect. Section 2. The science of shared learning. Educational theories behind peer support. Now, we aren't just relying on classroom anecdotes here. There's actually a massive scientific foundation for this, and it starts with social constructivism. This theory essentially tells us that learning is not a solo sport. It's inherently a social process. We aren't just empty vessels passively receiving data. Instead, we actively construct knowledge by interacting with the people around us. Interaction isn't just a fun byproduct of the classroom, it's literally the engine of learning. Which brings us to a big one, the zone of proximal development, or ZPD. This is that sweet spot between what a learner can do independently and what they can achieve with a little guidance. Here's what's so fascinating about this. Because peers are closer in age and cognitive development, they share a unique language. A peer can bridge that gap to understanding way more effectively than an adult expert who, let's be honest, has long forgotten the initial struggle of learning that concept for the very first time. And the cognitive processing benefits here are absolutely profound. When a student explains a concept, they're forced into retrieval practice. They actually have to recall the information, organize it in their head, and then verbalize it. It acts like a high-intensity workout for the brain, strengthening those neural connections, dramatically improving retention, and really enhancing conceptual clarity. So the student doing the explaining is locking in that data just as tightly as the student listening. Section 3. Why peer explanation works. The hidden mechanics of student language. As educators, we all kind of suffer from what's known as the curse of knowledge. Because we know our subjects so incredibly well, our explanations naturally tend to be complex, authoritative, and formal. But look at a peer explanation. It relies on simple language, and that instantly strips away the fear of asking a quote-unquote dumb question. This shift in dynamic drastically reduces hesitation. It encourages active learning, and it builds a really strong, highly collaborative culture right there in your room. Section 4. Strategies for your classroom. Shifting from broadcasting to facilitating. All right, so how do we actually make this shift from broadcasting to facilitating? Well, here are 5 rapid-fire techniques you can literally use tomorrow. First, think, pair, share. Let students process a concept alone, then test those ideas safely with a partner. Peer tutoring is great for mixing ability levels. Then there's the teach-back method, where you ask them to teach the concept right back to you. Group discussion roles are awesome because they mandate participation. And finally, a highly effective tweak, the exit explanation. Instead of a standard written exit ticket, require your students to verbally explain the core concept to a peer before they can escape the room. It absolutely guarantees they've processed the day's goal. Let's look at how this flows in practice. A chronological lesson loop goes exactly like this. Step 1, you briefly introduce a tricky topic, say fractions or photosynthesis, and I mean keep it incredibly short. Step 2, immediately after that, students pair up to explain that exact concept to each other in their own words. And step 3, one student presents their partner's explanation back to the room. It's a simple, super realistic, and highly effective framework. Section 5. Overcoming common hurdles. anticipating and solving classroom challenges. Now, I completely empathize with the anxiety of giving up control. You might be thinking, what if they teach it wrong? Well, the solution there is active teacher monitoring. You're walking the room, listening in, and just gently course correcting. Or maybe you're worried about dominant personalities taking over? Assign structured roles to make sure the quiet students definitely get a turn. And if time management is your enemy, just keep these bursts incredibly short and focused. Believe it or not, just 2 or 3 minutes is often enough to solidify a concept. When you push through those initial hurdles, the holistic impact on student outcomes is just staggering. We're talking better academic performance and surging confidence, simply because they realize they can master hard things. But most importantly, you're moving them from short-term memorization to long-term retention and higher-order thinking skills. Giving up a little bit of control yields massive cognitive returns. I want you to keep this powerful takeaway message in mind the next time you sit down to design a lesson plan. When students teach, they don't just share knowledge, they build it. As an educator, your ultimate goal shouldn't just be to teach. It should be to architect dynamic opportunities for your students to teach each other. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. Look at your upcoming lesson plans and ask yourself, how will you implement peer explanation in your next class? Challenge yourself to step away from the broadcast microphone for a minute and just watch what happens when your students finally light up the room together.